Hi everyone, my name is Brittany Gonzalez and my project-based learning PowerPoint. For this project, we had to read our textbook on chapters 3, 4, and 5, so this PowerPoint will just be me summarizing the chapters. To begin, what is project-based learning? Well, over the few weeks we've learned what project-based learning is, and this project is just a good example of how we would implement project-based learnings. So it's the process of learning through design, development, and completion of projects. Teachers that use project-based learning techniques, they still use textbooks, but they use them as resources and background information. Sort of how we did this project. We read the textbook and now we are creating a project-based learning PowerPoint and how it is beneficial towards our students. So you always want to think, how is project-based learning beneficial to our students in real life? Well, we always want to incorporate the standards that students need, and you also want to implement authenticity. And when you use authentic project-based learning, this offers possibilities for students in the developing world. So for some examples that I read in this text, I liked how Kathy Cassidy, I believe she was an elementary school teacher, she wanted to show her students like a representation of what 1,000 was, and she didn't have 1,000 items in her classroom. So what she did was she created a wiki, and over 3 months, students' names, parents, family members, they all added into this wiki, and it combined into 1,000 names. And that's also what we've been using in our course as well, is the wiki. So that's a really good example of what she used as project-based learning in her classroom. And this is just a picture of what project-based learning is. Of course, authenticity, collaboration, feedback and revision, reflection, and of course, you always want to implement the standards. So a continuation of chapter 3, for the project plan, by following higher order thinking skills, we want to use Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives. And this is analyze, evaluate, and create when we are creating projects, and to collaborate and create, which is going to enhance students' digital literacy skills. And project-based learning helps students get involved with their peers and their community, and when it is engaging, students want to become more invested in learning, and it allows them to create new skills in digital literacy. And you always want to incorporate different subjects into project-based learning. So one example that I read in chapter 3 was, I believe it was a PE teacher and a science teacher. They collaborated together to demonstrate physics of a golf club using kinesthetic motion. So they collabed together to for that project to show students examples. For chapter 4, we discussed how to select and get started in creating projects. So technology is new in ways to reach instructional goals. So of course, as mentioned, you want to use technology to enhance students' learning and to just turn a basic project into a project that is going to focus on the standards and the overall learning lesson. So they also discuss some pitfalls in chapter 4, and some pitfalls include when examining others' work, you are always using your critical thinking skills towards students and peers. Good projects focus on reaching significant learning outcomes, and you always want to look for ways to elevate themes and connect to learning, sort of how that example in chapter 3 with the 2 teachers collaborating together. And project-based learning should be focused on working with real-world problems and how it's going to benefit our students in the future. A continuation of chapter 4 was what was discussed was that aspects of critical thinking may improve a project and its quality, and there's more to this list, but these were the ones that stood out to me. So during a project-based learning project, you want to always compare and contrast, cause and effect, identify patterns and trends, and predict. So how are we going to design awesome projects? Well, it all begins with the teacher, and teachers must reach instructional goals such as grade level standards, language arts, science, math, and authenticity. So it's important to create projects that lead to activities that develop students' inquiry skills and allow them to research any questions they have. And yeah. So for chapter 5, we learned that project-based learning is personalized learning, and it's all about open-ended learning. And they discussed 2 testing methods that you use when you are using project-based learning. So there's formative and summative, and they kind of said that they don't want to do national testing. They rather do assessments developed by teachers, parents, and peers that work towards challenging standards. And they also discussed different project-specific rubrics, and there was a list of what sort of rubrics you would use for certain project-based learning. And overall, rubrics reflect students' growth in skills and the dispositions that were focused on in the projects. And one of the assessments that caught my eye, it was to model real-world assessment, which is evaluating students' projects using the standards of when students apply skills of professionals, such as scientists and engineers. So when they learn about a scientist, they're going to put their knowledge and research towards their project-based learning and what they have learned from that. And chapter 5 also discussed assessment tools that you can use in the classroom, and I have seen some of these tools used in my previous courses, and this is just a great way to get an idea. So to brainstorm a project, you can use digital whiteboards, and for checklists, you can use Google Forms, and for interest as well, you can use Google Forms. This is kind of like a survey. I know we did a survey in this class, I believe, in the beginning of the semester, where we do a survey on what time we will be able to meet during the course to do like a Zoom meeting. So I've seen Google Forms on that, or maybe it was Professor Perry's science class. So I've seen that as on there, and we've used Prezi, so you can make, I believe, concept maps. I've only used Prezi to create projects, and exit slips. I've used Padlet, I've used Twitter. Padlet is actually very interesting. I like how it's very interactive. You can place like your own selfie and kind of introduce yourself when we do introductions in the beginning of the semester. And project logs, Wiki. We use Wiki when we submit our projects, and we're allowed to comment on our peers. So on the left side right here, it's online grading books. So since technology's evolved, you wouldn't use, or you could, but you would use digital grading books. So instead of paper to pen, and Edmodo, iGrade Plus, and nGrade. I've never used these, so I don't know exactly what how that looks. But that is my presentation for project-based learning, and I hope you all enjoyed.